All right, that should be recording. All right, welcome everyone to Software Saturdays Spring 2022. And as our name suggests, we're a Saturday-based organization, and this semester we're teaching ReactJS, which is, if you're at all familiar with web development, one of the most popular web development frameworks in the world right now, but we'll go into that more in a little bit. So first of all, a little bit about us, people kind of telling you about the program. So yeah, my name is Hadi Ahmad. I am the chair for Software Saturdays, and I am a junior in computer engineering. I've been part of the program since 2019 when I joined as a mentor my freshman year, and I've been loving it ever since. Alongside me are going to be three mentors kind of helping you out, teaching you guys, guiding you, answering questions. That's Sam Favor right over here. He is a junior web development. We have Nishant Suresh over here. He is a junior in Comp. And finally, John Den on the front over here. He's a freshman in FYE. So really, everyone here is more than willing to help you out, answer any questions you might have, and hopefully make this the best possible experience for everyone here. So about Software Saturdays. At a very high level, we are a committee under the Purdue IEEE student branch. If you don't know who Purdue IEEE is, they are an amazing organization you should learn more about online if you guys have a chance. They do a lot of cool things, including what we are doing here. We are also sponsored by the College of Engineering, so that's why we can offer an official certificate and why we are kind of very integrated with their kind of learning systems and their learning platforms as well. So Software Saturdays really is a project-based learning program for Purdue students and staff. What that really means is we want to teach all of you guys real-world programming skills, no matter what your major may be, no matter your interests, no matter your career aspirations, because web development and the idea of programming in general is taking over the world by storm. And to be successful in a career, you kind of have to know how to program, especially if you want to go into software development, like web technologies, which again is kind of where the future is moving towards more and more as we go forward. This semester, we're teaching ReactJS. As I mentioned before, React is the most popular JavaScript framework on the market today. And it is extremely useful for web apps, portfolios, personal projects, corporate websites, you name it, someone is probably using React. If you have no idea what React is, it's actually a tool framework made by Facebook, used obviously by Facebook, but almost every other company on the planet probably has some React in their system as well nowadays. So really, if you know React, you're in a pretty good spot to set up for pretty much any job you could possibly want in software development after this. Oh, my mouse got lost again. There we go. So to make it safer for everybody, so you can feel more comfortable as well, we're going hybrid once again for this fall semester, the spring semester here. That means that we'll be offering both in person, as you guys can all see here, and online, as everyone here online can tell, options of both our learning sessions, as well as recordings available for everything the day or two after we have them in person. So no matter if you're, want to come in or want to stay in, there's some way you can participate no matter what. And as a reminder, all our review hours, which we'll talk about more in the first week of class, will be online as well. So there's no way that you can't participate, even if you're quarantined, you're not feeling too well at any given time. So very, very, very briefly here, our learning sessions are going to be in either this room, Hampton 1144, or down the hall in Hampton 1252 on Saturdays from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. Eastern. I'll always put out a meeting reminder, typically the Friday night before lesson, so you know exactly when and where things will be. But I would say out of the 7 weeks we have planned, 5 or 6 will be in this room, and there's 1 week we had to move to a different room for scheduling conflicts. But I'll make sure everyone knows ahead of time, and we have people to kind of guide you to the right spot if you get mistaken. And like I said before, everything will be recorded via Zoom and then published typically Sunday night when I have time, when I edit the videos and put on YouTube. And I'll make sure the link to that video recording will be published on Slack, on Brightspace, and on an email list so that you can always find it and access it, review it, or if you missed a class, catch up. Even if you miss 1 or 2 lectures or lessons, please come back the next week. We try to make sure that you can kind of join whenever you guys can, and that no matter what we're learning at any given time, the material can be easily learned to anybody using either our lessons, the slideshows, or the actual recordings as well. So there are 2 tracks planned within Software Saturdays, the beginner track and the intermediate track. So our beginner track is going to be mostly geared towards people who don't know either anything about web development or programming. However, if you have any idea about HTML or CSS, or maybe you know programming a little bit, I recommend the intermediate track, which would be a little bit more advanced and a little bit more fast-paced and a little bit more material covered than the beginner track. So if you chose to go to the beginner track, here's how the 7-week course will look for you guys there. There'll be 5 lessons. We begin with HTML and CSS, like what they are and how to use them, JavaScript, JSX and Intro to React, some more React, and then finally we cover APIs with the ReactJS. At the very end, we'll have 2 project days after spring break to work on the final project, which will be a Pokédex app we'll talk about more later. If you want to go for the intermediate track, as you can see, we basically skip the first 2 weeks of the course. We jump straight into React week 1. We then do more React on week 2, APIs week 3, something called functional components and asynchronous code week 4. And then finally, to cap it all off, we do NoSQL databases in week 5. However, you still have the exact same 2 weeks plus spring break for 3 weeks to work on the project, to submit for a certificate and final grading, we'll call it, but not the grades. So what should you choose track-wise? If you feel comfortable with HTML, CSS, or JavaScript, take the intermediate track, because the beginner track assumes you don't have any of that prerequisite knowledge. However, if you also have kind of background in programming, you feel pretty confident with your skills, also take the intermediate track. There are plenty of easy ways to learn HTML and CSS and JavaScript online, and those 3 things are super simple to pick up very quickly your first week. So even if you don't want to, spend your time in the beginner track, you can still learn the same material as if you want. Actually, a great resource is our previous recordings of previous semesters. I'll put a link to it again in the Slack on Brightspace, but we have recorded the past 3 semesters now, I want to say, of Software Saturdays. So you can reference the week 1 or 2 videos from those courses as well to get caught up for week 3 going forward. And at any time, if you feel like things are going too fast or too slow for you, please change tracks. We are more than willing to let you guys move up and down at your own pace, so you guys can scale the course however you see fit, making it easy for everyone to get the experience they want out of this program. And then about the final project. So I get to mention a little briefly about the final project, but it will basically be to build a full Pokédex app using both the free Poke API online resource and ReactJS. This project will tend to use every skill you guys cover. So it's kind of like a good keystone for the entire program we've covered so far. And if you finish the project, you will be awarded a certificate from the College of Engineering, or abbreviated here as COE. So the certificate, again, is offered to every student, either intermediate or beginner, no problem there. And this certificate looks great on LinkedIn or on a resume and can actually be digitally signed. You can actually have a copy of it for your records forever, stored on Purdue servers safely. And finally, it's kind of about how we run our program, like logistics standpoint. All of our attendees will be on Brightspace. We're trying to move towards a more like a centralized system. So we figured everyone here is using Brightspace for their classes. So we'll be using Brightspace as well for our lecture, our distribution of notes and stuff, and how we submit our final projects. I also recommend, if you guys could, please join the Slack. I put a link to the Slack in the email sent out to everybody here. If you guys didn't get one, don't worry, the link is right over here. This is how we kind of communicate and kind of send stuff out in a more casual manner, and how we can ask questions very easily of the mentors if you choose to do that. On there are 3 channels you can see right here: announcements, general discussion, and spring 2020 ReactJS. These are kind of how we're going to communicate. Announcements is where I'll post stuff like reminders for meetings, announcements about office hours, stuff like that. General is your typical just free-for-all general chat. And finally, spring 2022 is where we're going to ask specific questions about the program as a whole. But obviously, feel free to ask whatever you want anywhere. We're always on Slack, but typically you'll get a response within a couple hours at the latest. That's basically all I had. It wasn't too crazy for everyone here. But if you guys have not yet registered for the program, here's a link to our form for signing up. Again, it's also on our website, purdue.org/software. And if you have any questions at any time, please send me an email. You can see my email right over there. I will be more than happy to answer anything you guys have. But are there any questions right now that you guys want me to answer, here? Yes.
What's the general schedule for each class? Is it basically just like we will work on like what needs to be done for the class? Is there anything outside of the class that we need to do?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the question was, how does the schedule for the classes look? We try to make everything self-contained, meaning you'll spend most of your time on the program within the 2 hours of each learning session. We try to make sure that there's not much to do outside of class because everyone's busy with schoolwork and clubs. So as long as you come to our lessons, you finish the checkpoints we talk about in the lesson, you'll be perfectly on track to finish the final project. We try to make sure that the checkpoints in each lesson will kind of build you up towards the final project. So that at the time you hit the final project, work weeks, you'll have finished all the components for it in a previous class. So it's not so much completely from scratch, but kind of like how do we just kind of combine these different components together into one single project? Great question. Could you show the slides that the different contents again? Yes, of course. So here are the different slides. And again, I'll put this on Brightspace afterwards as well, so you can easily reference it from here. But as you can see, if you're at all kind of like new to web development or HTML or whatnot, I highly recommend the beginner track. We begin off with the most basic web development stuff, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, before moving into the more advanced React. However, if you at all feel comfortable with React or web development like HTML, JavaScript, or programming in general, I recommend the intermediate track, which is right there. Is there any particular IDE we should download for this course? No, IDE, in case they didn't know, is kind of like how you program and code, right? Some very popular IDEs are like VS Code, there's PyCharm, there's Notebook++, there's IntelliJ, Sublime, really whatever you feel comfortable using. I personally use VS Code because I like it the most, but really whatever you guys want to use is perfectly fine. As long as they can edit text files, that's okay with us. Vim is also there, going to be hardcore. Yeah. The Brightspace page will be up hopefully tonight if I get the time. If not, at the latest tomorrow, I'll get everyone on the Brightspace page as well. Any other? Yes.
It was 7 weeks, you said, right?
7 weeks. Yeah, we do miss 2 weeks for spring break, so it'll be 5 spring break and then 2 more at the very end. So pretty spread out, very relaxed, which gives you guys actually 4 weeks for the project. So plenty of time to work on the project. You have the spring break, 2 Saturdays, plus our own 2 project weeks, plus a final week at the end. So actually it's 5 weeks for project weeks. So you have plenty of time to finish the project. Yeah.
So you mentioned if we have no experience with CSS or HTML to do the beginner track.
Yes, if you are, I'm gonna go back here quick. If you don't think you can pick up those 2 things or those 3 things within the first week of class, I highly recommend the beginner track. But if you are kind of confident in your programming ability, like maybe you know Java or Python or C, then learning these 3 things are very simple and can be easily done, the first week before the first week to get to the intermediate session. Yeah.
Just to confirm, so if we have done HTML and CSS and have done Java before, would that translate well for the intermediate course?
Do you know Python?
Yes.
Then you'll be fine. Because Python and JavaScript are very similar languages. Hold on, online, I have 2 questions here. Why Pokédex? Well, great question. We chose a Pokédex because it's fun. It's easy to write, it's fun to write, and it's something that people have interest in. Pokemon's a pretty popular game series nowadays. You cannot log in. You may have to make an account. So yes, Slack is kind of confusing. There's like the login and the make an account button. If you have never done software studies before, try to make an account and that should work. That's a question over there. Yes.
So you mentioned picking up HTML and CSS in the first week or so. How in depth would you go into HTML and CSS?
Honestly, not too in depth because we're not really a HTML class, we're a JavaScript class. If you kind of want some context, if you look up Pretty Triple E on YouTube, we do have every playlist that we've made for the past 3 semesters online as well. So you guys can see how in depth we go. But really, as long as you know like what a div tag or H1s or how to kind of put them together go, you'll be in the perfect spot for the intermediate track. Are the projects due the day of the class or to get some time outside of the class to work? Yeah, so there's only one project, there's only one project, which is this one, and you will have, by my math, 5 weeks to work on it. So you have plenty of time to work on it at your own leisure, and we will have 2 work days where we're in person or online. where you guys can just ask questions to the mentors, get some more direct help. And we'll also have some more office hour kind of style help sprinkled throughout the entire semester as well. What is the difference between certification? So yeah, certificate wise, there is no difference. You will all receive the same certificate. The one difference will be if you submit an intermediate project, you will get the intermediate certificate. It'll say intermediate React, whereas beginner will say beginner React. That is the only difference. It is still the same official certificate from the official College of Engineering, no problem there. Will the tracks do the same Pokédex final project? Yes, they'll be the same Pokédex, but the intermediate track will be a little bit more feature rich than the beginner track. That's because you cover a few more feature rich topics than the beginner track does. So for example, one thing you might have to do with the intermediate track is because we cover databases in the last week, you might have to make like a My Pokemon Team function or feature where you can store maybe your top 6 Pokemon that you've currently been working with or you like the most at the moment. How are the beginner and intermediate topics separated? Literally, they're very similar. Intermediate just basically skips the first 2 weeks of the beginner track and adds 2 weeks at the very end. And on Brightspace will kind of clearly show which is for which, but really they're pretty much the exact same in the middle of the semester. Any other questions? These are some great questions, by the way. Good guys, good job. All right, if no one else has any questions, I'll be around for a little bit longer if you want to ask something else privately. But if you have not had a chance to, please fill out the attendance form again right here. I'll put a link to it in the chat on Zoom as well if you guys couldn't find it. But please fill it out. Yeah, that's basically it. And if you have not yet registered, please make sure you do before next week. We will close registrations on the 5th morning of February. So it's 2/5 morning. All right. If there are no other questions, that's basically all I had. Oh, one more here, sorry. Is there any way to check if I already registered? If you don't remember, not a problem. Just do it again. I will just simply remove any duplicates from my spreadsheet when I make a spreadsheet about submission, so not a problem. Yes?
Where are the previous year semester videos?
Yeah, if you go to YouTube and look up Purdue IEEE, actually I can do it right here for everybody. If I can move you out of the way, maybe. So if you just go to YouTube, we just search for, okay, if YouTube wants to load. Oh my goodness, what is going on? Purdue IEEE. We are right here. And you can see our playlists are all underneath. We have 3 years of playlists. So you can view all the videos from right here. We have fall 2020, spring 2021, and fall 2021 as well. And they all kind of cover some different topics so you guys can choose. But if you go into the playlist, for example, like the spring 2021s, you'll see that we have the HTML and JavaScript ones available for you viewing right there.
So those first 2 lessons are pretty simple.
Yeah, we kind of keep the same because the material is almost the exact same from year to year. One more question here is, how do we register? That is a great question. Yeah, so if you have not yet registered, the way to register is right here. That is this link right there. It is also on our website, which is below it, purdue.org/software. There's a big button called Join as an Attendee. Click on that button to kind of get how that looks. Let me pop up that form here, purdue.org/software. And then if you go to Join as an Attendee, or you can scroll down and hit Register Today. Both are fine. And you can just fill out the Google form right there. Yeah.
Where's the Zoom link located? I can't.
If you go to the Purdue IEEE homepage, is right there.
Okay.
Yep. And if you do want to get a previous year's code, that's also pretty cool stuff. That will also be available for anyone. So if you want to see like how we did the code for the first 2 weeks, click on any of our past 3 semesters, change the lesson 1 or 2 branch, and you can see the demo codes that if you understand the demo code in the lesson 1 branch for one of those years, you'll be in a pretty good spot for the intermediate track. And one more question here was, will mentors offer office hours? Yes, you'll have a 1 hour review session for anyone who wants to come, typically on a Wednesday or Thursday. I'm not sure what they were choosing just yet for that, but that will be online on Zoom. So stop by for as long as you need to get as much help as you guys want for the the week's lesson or something. All right, anyone else? Cool, that's all I had. Thank you for coming. Oh yeah, I'll do it one more time. Yep, and here's the link for attendance one more time. Whoops, 1 second, sorry. There we go. And again, I'll be here for any more kind of private questions you kind of want to ask or more questions you want to ask for the next like 10 minutes or so. You too. Were there any questions here online that were not answered today?
How do you make the curriculum for these?
A lot of us work.
A lot of work.
Pretty much we just kind of figure out what we need to learn or what we want to teach as like the basic lessons, and then kind of work backwards from there to figure out what the weeks would have to be to kind of make that dream possible. Like for example, a good example would be like our Vue curriculum, which was from scratch last year, was we knew that we wanted to do something with Vue. So we just kind of looked through what the basic Vue topics were, and then figure out how to make a 5-week course around those topics.
So when you say you work backwards, do you mean you have an idea of what you want from like the Vue, like what your final project should look like, and then you work backwards to figure out what you need to know in order to.
Sort of. It's a kind of a combination of we need to figure out what the project will be, plus figure out what we can reasonably teach in 5 weeks as well. Like there is a lot you can do with Vue and React for that matter as well, but it's not necessarily easy to learn or teach all that in only 10 hours, right? The kind of material we're doing is stuff we can cover in 10 hours, kind of what we put it out.
Yeah. How did you get like the College of Education? Is it the College of Education?
Engineering.
Engineering. The College of Engineering to allow for it to be a certificate like course. Like this is basically like a basic course.
It is actually, yeah. So actually how that happened really was we approached them in 2018 before I was at Purdue and kind of brought it up with them, asked them like, would this be a program that you would be interested in supporting IEEE? And they agreed, right? So we kind of moved forward with that. And really the certificate part kind of came out actually fall 2020. So if you're at all familiar with the EBEC program or Every Boilermaker Engineer Codes, that is a similar program on the College of Engineering, which is Python focused. Over the course of 15 weeks or something, they teach Python to any Purdue engineer typically who wants to learn it for a pretty good amount.
Oh, is that what Andrew advertised?
Yes, that's something. Yeah, that's exactly what he did. And so what this program is kind of like that, but in a different scale and a different topic. So we kind of just get merged underneath their certificate giving arm, we'll call it, to offer to everybody who wants to get one.
Okay, so they already have the system in place, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. They're trying to move more to the space of, they know that a lot of the stuff we're teaching in these classes or these programs don't exist in classes just yet. So they want to supplemental way of doing it. Exactly.
That's cool.
It's a very cool program.
Yes. Nice to fill a niche.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for coming by, Alex. It's good seeing you.
Thank you for teaching. Thanks for coming by
Be involved for this
the
morning.
involved.
No problem. My pleasure. Cool. How about online? Dayun, Siwen, or Yaman? Any questions there? You can just put them in the chat or say them out loud, your choice. My volume is up. Yeah, so. Cool. If there are no questions here, then if you do have any kind of coming up next couple of days, feel free to email them to me on the website or the email you got from me to get the Zoom link, and I will hopefully see everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, 1 second. Sorry.
Oh,
Hello.
yeah, I was just saying thank you.
Oh no, thank you for coming today. For real.
Okay, bye.
Bye now.